Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to watch with us. The most disturbing videos on the internet today. Welcome on Space for Adventures. This is going to be creepy, so here we go.
This is bad. Why are animals all around us turning into zombies? It's not just bunnies anymore, but we'll get to it. This guy recorded one of those zombie Frankenstein bunnies in South Dakota, and just now we find out that something odd is happening with the squirrels too, and they're saying that it's a virus. We'll get to the scariest scenario in just 1 minute, but completely 1000% unrelated. Can frequency cause mold growth? Can. Now back to our animal. Does this not look like mold growth to y'all? Does this not look like mold growth to y'all? It looks like mold, fungus. You can see that really clear right here behind his ears. So let me stop right here and say, I'm not a doctor. Of course, they're right, and it's a virus. And now all of a sudden we have these squirrels acting up, having a very weird coat of blisters and other kinds of sores on them. Coincidentally, the same exact time. 1000% unrelated, again, not related whatsoever. I just want to show you something cool. Check out this crazy weather radar. And this one. And unrelated again, check out this crazy one that I got sent to me that was in Arkansas. That's wild, isn't it? I really wonder what that could be. Back to the subject. These zombie animals are being seen everywhere, but largely, as you can see, in the Midwest. When something like this presents itself and starts multiplying between different species, we need to look at the environment that they're in. The scary part, if this can happen to them, what would whatever it is do to us? You want to know what's wild? Remember the GOV having a literal zombie training course, like what to do about zombies, and it even said on the zombie thing that it's not a game, it's a real life thing. Wow.
The Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to be keeping our air and our water clean, not conducting surveillance and smear campaigns against independent scientists. And yet, in a News Nation exclusive, newly released emails show that is what was happening after the East Palestine train disaster in February of 2023. The target? An environmental scientist whose tests contradicted the EPA's narrative that there were no dangerous levels of toxins in the area. Local residents were told the official story. Their neighborhoods were safe, and some of those who dared to disagree found themselves in the EPA's crosshairs. This is just the latest example of EPA issues in East Palestine, and News Nation has stayed on top of the story. Just last month, we showed you how a report found the agency in Norfolk Southern manipulated soil testing data following the disaster. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has the latest for us.
That drone just came over us now, didn't it?
Yep.
When environmental scientist Scott Smith began testing for toxins in East Palestine, drones were monitoring his movements. Someone was watching. Because months after the open burn of vinyl chloride and after the EPA told residents it was safe to come home, his test results showed exactly the opposite. Smith found extremely elevated levels of dioxins in the soil in East Palestine. In the spring of 2023, after we reported Smith's findings, and former EPA Administrator Judith Enck said the EPA should pay attention to Smith's test results.
His work should encourage the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency now to go and grab some other filters and do similar testing and analysis.
But that's not what happened. Instead, EPA emails show the agency began collecting Smith's personal information, tracking his movements, distributing his whereabouts to more than 50 EPA employees. They even circulated photos of his dog.
It's troubling because this is a matter of transparency and truth and protecting public health. What the EPA seems to have done here in East Palestine is they were more interested in controlling the narrative and controlling what was going out to the community, from the community and back to the community. They were definitely controlling the narrative of nothing to see here, no long-term health impact.
Smith continued to test on over 30 trips to East Palestine. RFK Jr. met with him in East Palestine and called him an extraordinary advocate for the people. Smith says taxpayer dollars should be spent on testing, not surveilling him.
They don't want to look for the full spectrum of chemicals that I look for. And instead of sitting down with me and having a dialogue for the benefit of the community, they launched this, smear and campaign and undermining it. It's pretty clear in their own words. They're clearly not serving the community they're supposed to protect. And it's not just East Palestine, Rich. It's a systemic thing.
The emails show the EPA was also tracking residents too, outspoken voices in the community like Jamie Wallace. She was included in some of the agency's weekly social listening reports.
They tried to control this narrative and act like none of us had any long-term health risk, and we're not stupid. We see it. We feel it.
The EPA said in a statement, "We are very concerned by claims that have come to light over the past few months. The Trump administration is committed to maximum transparency, and as such, we intend to conduct a thorough review of decisions made in the aftermath of the train derailment. We will work to ensure the health and safety of the people of East Palestine." Wallace says that's not good enough. She has a message for the current administration.
I say it's never too late to try to right a wrong. We know, everyone knows. The EPA knows, the government knows, the U.S. citizens know that we got screwed. From the beginning, there were mistakes made, there were flaws, but you just don't continue to cover those up and forget about a whole community that's now gone from symptoms to long-term illnesses. What you do is you try to make that right.
In speaking with residents and with Smith, they say this ultimately proves what they knew all along. Now they say they want solutions and that it's time for a congressional investigation.
So this is shocking.
It's going to be for entertainment purposes only.
That our phones are doing that we had no idea it was doing, and it's doing it as we speak, literally as I'm recording this video. It is doing it. Yours is doing it too. It is shocking. Optogenetics, do you know what this is? It's a biological technique to control the activity of neurons or other cell types with light.
Phone every few seconds is literally taking packet data of information from your camera in the front and your camera from the back.
Now watch this. So this guy has a special camera that can film. It's a night vision camera. And this woman's on her phone. This is the name of the camera.
I did some research for you, and I found a video of a scientist explaining optogenetics and exactly how it works in the brain neurologically.
Cells called neurons that are built into very dense intermesh networks that communicate. Each of these neurons computes using electricity. This cycle implements behavior and thought and emotion, all these different kinds of things. We also think that deficits in these electrical computations underlie many brain disorders that affect over 1 billion people around the world. In optogenetics, what we're doing is we're putting molecules that convert light into electricity into neurons, the cells of the brain. Then when we shine light on those neurons, light gets converted to electricity and allows us to turn on or off those cells.
And it's not just random, it's actually very specifically controlled input.
These molecules can convert light to electricity, and they do it just in the neurons that we want to control. And for example, if we can turn on a set of cells, we can figure out what kinds of behaviors can it initiate. If we can turn off a set of cells, then we can delete it momentarily and figure out what it's necessary for.
Well, here's a little something that should make you think. Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone era and unveils its surprising replacement. Let's see what the replacement is going to be of our smartphones. Bill Gates announces the conclusion of the smartphone age and unveils electronic tattoos as the next big innovation. Interesting, electronic tattoos. Here's a quote directly from Gates. The key advantage, these tattoos are integrated into the body. Imagine having a device embedded in your skin that lets you interact with the world through simple gestures or touch. It's sleek, unobtrusive, and possibly more intuitive than anything we've seen so far. The tattoos are powered by tiny nanocapacitors, and they don't require bulky batteries or displays, making them a far more subtle alternative to today's mobile devices. And let's see exactly what they'll be used for. A communication conduit facilitating messaging, internet browsing, and door unlocking. A health monitor observing metrics such as heart rate, body temperature, sleep patterns, and early illness detection. Also, a security apparatus functioning as a password, digital identification, or payment method. Call me crazy, but the mark of the beast will soon fall upon those who dwell on the earth. The technology is here. The technology is in front of our eyes. Today is the day of salvation. Between Captain Brainchip over here and his Neuralink transmitter and Bill Gates' electronic tattoo, I think today would be a good day to put your faith in your faith alone in Jesus Christ.
They're coming after your kids and nobody's talking about it. As if California couldn't get any worse, tell me why Democrats just passed AB 495. I'll tell you why nobody's talking about it, because Democrats are trying to sell this as a family safety bill in order to protect immigrant children if their parents are ever detained. But without knowing it, it is shredding your parental rights over your children. So here's everything you need to know. AB 495 proclaims that it is trying to help immigrant families plan childcare if a parent is detained by ICE. But on the surface, it says that. What does it say beneath the surface? What they're not telling you is that this bill actually allows any unrelated adult with a signed affidavit to legally take custody and make medical decisions without parental consent to your child. We're talking about neighbors, teachers, clergy, even strangers who claim to have a mentorship relationship with your children. No background check, no court oversight, just one page and boom, they are next of kin. That affidavit lets them authorize immunizations, mental health treatment, even gender-related care, all without notifying their biological parents. Meaning your child could be taken for treatment and you will have no idea it ever happened. Court records are locked down, confidential, and withheld from non-parties. That includes you, the parent, and you want to keep tabs on your kids? Good luck. Even Heritage is warning that this opens the door to child kidnapping, and Californians are now giving abductors a legal pathway to take your kids as long as they fill out an affidavit. So this is a warning to every parent. AB 495 sounds nice, but it is a stealth attack on your parental rights. They are really building a back door where strangers can take custody of your children. And this has got to be stopped before it's too late.
Do any of my followers remember the series of videos I did about Basquiat? He was a famous artist back in the 1980s, idolized by many of those in Hollywood, including Jay-Z and Ellen DeGeneres. A lot of his artwork looks similar to this. Some of the articles I found allege that he was a medium, a magician, a shaman of sorts, and his mission was nothing less than restoration of powerful spiritual function to art, a channeling of the eternal through the ephemeral. They allege he learned Haitian voodoo from his mother, and he knows the lowest, the Haitian gods, and he knows what they sound like on a jazz record. You can hear Uzuli when she's speaking through a clarinet and understands the relationship between possession and the dance floor, and that the gods are in the music. Well, I had recently watched Sinners, yes, the movie about the vampires, but I noticed that in the movie they used blues and jazz music. When I researched why they included jazz music in a movie about vampires, it states one article even suggests that the music, particularly the blues, acts as a portal between different realms or dimensions within the film. But could it also do the thing in real life? While I was scrolling online yesterday, I had seen some things about what Willow Smith was posting on IG. I'm not going to post those here, but I did stumble across this video that she posted and I found it very interesting. Listen closely.
Jazz is the only genre of music that can hold every single genre of music inside of it without any friction.
So question, if jazz is the only genre of music that can hold any genre of music inside of it, does that mean that jazz music could be integrated in any genre of music? Stay with me.
The flower of life is the only geometrical shape that can hold every single shape inside of it. The circle can also hold every single shape inside of it. Jazz is the circle.
Jazz is a circle, but so are portals. So it has me wondering if jazz music is incorporated in every genre of music, and could it possibly open portals without people even realizing it? I think it's an absolutely bizarre thought, but they seem to think that it's possible to open portals through music. What do you guys think?
Talk about AB 495. a bill that you are warning could legalize child. I mean, those are fighting words, Pastor Hibbs. Yep. I trust your contention. Educate us. We have a lot of time here, so please, what is this all about?
Charlie, I have it in front of me, and the preamble to this is I never thought in my lifetime that I would stand before our congregation of over 10,000 adults and say, if this bill passes, you need to get your kid out of public school and into private school or homeschool, or you need to leave the state of California. That was not hyperbole. That was not any form of a joke. Dead serious. AB 495. It's Charlie, and it's actually an anti-Trump, anti-ICE bit of legislation written by Assembly member Celeste Rodriguez, and it is this, that if the bill passes, that is, if Gavin Newsom signs it into law next week, that you can go to the state website in your home, you can download an affidavit, you can check the box that says, did you attempt to reach out to the parents regarding the possession of the child? Check the box, yes or no. If the person who downloaded this affidavit checks the box, yes, they sign their name, they go down to the local school where this child is, your child, my grandkids, and they can bring the child, the school board has to relinquish the child's possession into the hands of the requester, because here's the bill. Because it is a bill of compassion. It is to shield children against ICE taking their parents during the school day without the child now having a place to go home to, an occupied home with mom and dad. And so it's a compassion bill, Charlie. It is going to protect the child. Here's how it protects the child. Any Joe who can download the form without a background check, without having to produce license, driver's license, passport number, social security number, those things are suggested, not required. Get a load of this, Charlie. When the individual receives possession of your child and the school cannot refuse them, the school is also not obligated to tell the parents when the end of the school day comes who took the child, where the child is at. There's no accountability whatsoever, because it is all geared to hide the child from investigation that could possibly lead the child to ICE agents or the like, because it's an assumption that their parents are illegal. Here's the thing, Charlie, we have had, I'm not going to mention their names, but you and I share some of the great legal minds in America that help us all out at all times. They've studied the bill. They told us, listen to this. They said, Jack, normally the devil is in the details. This is the most sick legislation ever proposed in California. That's saying a lot.
This is Alexander Wang, the youngest self-made billionaire in the world, and he said something this week that I had to re-listen to 3 times to make sure I heard right. He wants to wait to have kids until Neuralink is ready, because the advantage they'd have being born with the chip. Okay, this is my daughter, Pride and Joy, and my son is due any day now, and brain-computer interfaces are actually what worries me the most about their future. Now look, they'll be miraculous for medical applications, treating neurological disorders, restoring vision and mobility, but as Wang says in this interview, they are an attack vector. Corporations, state actors, foreign adversaries, whoever can hack into our collective consciousness and have total control.
That's obviously pretty bad.
Okay, so easy. Just don't get chipped. Well, in the 2000s, if you didn't take steroids as a baseball player, somebody who did was going to take your contract. When my daughter's in her 30s, not being chipped will be economically disadvantageous. Wang makes the point that AI improvement is going to so rapidly outpace human innovation that we will need some sort of interlink between our brain and AI to not get left in the dust.
It's going to be pretty critical if we want humans to remain relevant as AI keeps getting better.
By the way, Wang knows a thing or two about this stuff. Because of his work at scale, he has an inside scoop on a lot of the big research labs. I think it's part of the reason that Zuck just spent $14.3 billion bringing him over to Meta to lead their new superintelligence unit.
Mind reading and mind control are that is where the technology will go over time. And so, like any advanced technology, we have to not
that up. Look, these conversations we need to be having at a global scale. I would love to interview Alexander Wang for this channel if somebody out there can set it up. I really believe that the next 10 years are quite possibly the most consequential in the history of our species. And I think Wang will be one of the major players stewarding this decade.
Deepfakes just became impossible to detect. The one method we trusted to spot fake video just got completely destroyed by AI that learned to fake heartbeats. Scientists thought they were clever. They built detection systems that looked for tiny color changes on faces caused by blood flow. Real humans have subtle heartbeat signals. Fake videos don't. Problem solved, right? Wrong. New deepfakes accidentally learned to replicate those exact biological signals. The AI wasn't programmed to do this, it just happened because the models got so good at looking lifelike that they started copying human biology. Now we have fake videos showing perfect heartbeat patterns, realistic blood vessel movement, and skin tone pulses that fool even professional detection tools. The technology that was supposed to save us from misinformation just became useless. This is terrifying because fake content spreads faster than fact-checking. By the time someone proves a video is fake, millions have already seen it and formed opinions. We're entering dangerous territory where proving something is real becomes nearly impossible. Trust in video evidence is about to collapse completely.
World's first 3D bioprinted heart has been completed.
Did you know that we can 3D print organs? That's right, real live organs.
Literally, scientists worldwide are developing 3D printed hearts that can have the same shape and build as the heart they're looking to replace. A printer could generate a synthetic heart that looks identical to the heart you already have.
Dense cell clusters called organoids, speeding up the process without compromising on the organ's intricate structure.
Advances in bioprinting technology, scientists and doctors can now create functional human organs using special 3D printers. These printers use bioink made from living cells to construct tissues layer by layer to completely mimic and replicate the structure of natural organs.
We're trying to print a beating functional heart tissue from scratch using 3D bioprinting. We have to go back to the stem cell state, and then you instruct them to become beating cardiomyocytes, heart cells. We can print a vascular network, and after 16 days, you can see this whole tissue is now fused and it's beating synchronously.
Scientists from Tel Aviv University in Israel have produced the first 3D printed heart containing human tissue and blood vessel.
When I was in anesthesiology residency training, they asked me to go up to ICU and bring down a brain dead man to become an organ donor. Well, I hadn't really thought about that very much, and so I asked him, gee, brain death, is there anything I need to know about this? It's my first time doing this. And my staff man just rolled his eyes and said, just be sure someone has actually declared him brain dead. You know how eager the transplant team can be? Well, I went up there and I found my patient, and he didn't look dead. His heart was beating. He had a good blood pressure, good heart rate. His oxygen saturation was great. He looked just like every other ICU patient I'd taken care of, and in fact, better than most. And in my gut, I knew something was wrong, but I had been taught by my authorities that this man was dead. So I came back to the operating room and I found the staff anesthesiologist who was going to be supervising me, and I presented the case to him. And he asked me for my anesthetic plan of care. And I said, well, I think I'll use a paralyzing agent because, surgeons get heavy when people move during surgery. And I'll give him some to blunt any heart rate or blood pressure swings that might damage his organs. And the doctor looked at me and he said, well, are you going to give him anything to block consciousness? Well, I was stunned. I said, well, why would I do that? Isn't he dead? And he just gave me this long, slow look over his surgical mask, and he said, why don't you give one just in case? And he walked away. Now, Brandon, my gut was telling me this is wrong. Something is really going on wrong here. But, may God forgive me, I caved to my authorities and the push that everyone was taking to take this man and get this case done. And I did what I was told. I took the man to the operating room. I gave him the anesthesia we had planned to do. And I'm here to tell you, he reacted to the incisions, to the bone saws, to the removal of pieces, just like any other patient. He required the same types and the same amounts of anesthesia. And, I told this story to a friend of mine who's a pathologist. And, she told me when she removes organs during an autopsy in the morgue, she doesn't need to give any of these drugs. So this is what set me on this journey to find answers.
This guy just released a top secret document from the Pentagon where it states that they have made contact with sentient beings aboard the space probe heading towards Earth, 31 Atlas. In his original video, which gained some traction on TikTok, there were many questions left on the table because the document he provided had a lot of misspelling and errors in it. In part 2, he explains that the reason he did that is when he would try to upload the original document, which I will post at the end of this video, TikTok would stop the video and immediately ban the account associated with what he posted. But then he eventually realizes the reason they did that is because he didn't redact the information in the names associated with the document. What he claims is that he has the same name as one of the top military officials within the Pentagon. The only thing separating the two is the middle initial. Well, he says that somebody sent him the email by accident. They were supposed to send it to the other guy with the same name. Per protocol, he's supposed to not read the email, forward it on, and delete it. But he saw that it was top secret, so naturally he couldn't help himself. And when he saw the email, he couldn't believe what he was reading. So he decided to go on the run, go hide, and upload it for the world to see. Again, he received a lot of criticism for the first post because of all the spelling errors and the Department of Defense symbol not being correct. Well, his claim is that he used AI to write a similar document up, take the picture, upload that, because that's the only thing that TikTok would let him upload. I can see why people were very skeptical. But then again, he did a part 3 where he realized if he covered up the names of the colonels involved and the people involved, that TikTok would allow him to upload the photo. Here is the actual document. Deputy Secretary of Defense, 1010 Defense, Pentagon, Washington. The address, July 15th, top secret. Interstellar Object High Interest Assessment. Object designation, Comet C2025 N1 Atlas. Top secret, restricted to, all that stuff, NASA. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb and the Galileo Project report anomalous data indicating a non-natural origin for object N1 Atlas. Preliminary assessments classify ATI as exhibiting a high hyperbolic excess velocity of 5.02 kilometers a second, retrograde orbital characteristics, and anomalous spectral readings incompatible with known cometary bodies. Trajectory modeling confirms near ecliptic path intersecting orbital lanes of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, with expected perihelion occurring 29th of October 2025 at 1.35 AU from the Sun. Strategic analysis suggests potential for observational surveillance or deployment of automated probes during planetary flybys. Intel note: as of the 14th of July, intermittent directed radio signals have been detected originating from the object's leading edge. Signal composition exhibits non-random sequencing and phase-locked data streams at frequencies between redacted. Statement from OPS-12, Space Domain Awareness Task Group. Contact established with sentient beings aboard the craft. Again, contact established with sentient beings aboard the craft.
All right, so everybody know, man, Big Duke 13, the guy that likes to make people laugh, the guy that does the skits, the guy that does the iPhone tips and trick, but also the guy that gives you information that's important, like this video right here. This scam here is running crazy. And I'm gonna tell you the #1 rule about scams, y'all. They're never gonna bring you nothing new. They're gonna always use something that you're used to, something that you're familiar with. Everybody done seen this. This right here determines if you're human or if you're a robot. Copy the little code or the numbers or letters or whatever. Click right here if you're not. Everybody's seen this. The new scam is they using this now, y'all. Only difference is when you start to type those letters in, this pops up. Oops, something wrong happened. We need you to do this now. Immediately turn your computer off. Immediately turn your laptop off. Turn your phone off. If this pops up after they give you this capture telling you something happened, get up off there, y'all. That's how the scam working now. They let people come in there, tell them they need to fill this out, do this right here, click here. Then when they do it, it don't work. They say, okay, now you need to do this right here so we can verify. Nah, this how they get to y'all. You actually inviting malware into your computer, your laptop, your phone, and now they have access to be able to go into all your accounts and stuff. Your bank, your crypto, your 401k. They not playing, y'all. You gotta be tech smart. Don't let your grandma, y'all, get caught up in this, because we know a lot of older folks, this who they target, because a lot of them are not tech savvy, you know what I'm saying? So y'all make sure you help your grandma and protect yourself, man. Don't not let them get caught up in this new scam right here, man.
Bill Gates claimed smartphones, smart devices are all going to be replaced by these electronic tattoos.
Getting a tattoo can actually save your life. And not only you can take this tattoo on your skin, but also on your organs. And they are ideal for monitoring our health, including muscle activity, heart diagnostics, blood pressure, skin temperature, and much more.
2013, former DARPA director Regina Dugan went on stage and casually showed off an electronic tattoo.
And it has an antenna and some sensors embedded in it.
No passwords, no fobs, just a signal pulsing beneath your skin.
Tattoo that could be used for authentication.
But when the key is your body, what happens when the lock changes? They don't need to convince you. They just need to program the next generation.
10 to 20-year-olds don't want to wear a watch on their wrist, but you can be sure that they'll be far more interested in wearing an electronic tattoo, if only to piss off their parents.
First, they'll brand your skin, then they'll rewire your biology.
So I take a vitamin every morning. What if I could take vitamin authentication? It means that my arms are like wires, my hands are like alligator clips. When I touch my phone, my computer, my door, my car, I'm authenticated. What this means is that becomes my first superpower. I really want this superpower.
They'll sell you your own enslavement, one upgrade at a time.
He's like, yeah.
Yes. This very well may be the greatest cover-up in history. And I really do mean the biggest cover-up that we've ever seen. So with everything happening in Greece right now, it really reminded me with all the unalive bodies around the whole world in the millions, maybe billions. They would say billions didn't live there, where would the corpse be? Right here. And we have catacombs all over the earth, conveniently trying to say they happened around 1800, 1700, but you know, Rome was the first century. The first century that not many people know was a time that even the movies could not recreate. And I got a really big feeling that it wasn't 1800s and 1700s, but they're all done in the first century. But the question is, what in the world happened in this first century? Let me take you on a little ride where a biblical prophecy meets massive cataclysms all over the earth, because Rome was all over the earth. So the catacombs are 1 mile to 6 miles deep. There are certain locations around the earth that might have 4, 5, 6, 10 million bodies in them alone. But why would the graveyards be so full, and why would they take all these bones and go through all the work to decorate them? You saw the cross, right? Oddly enough, you'll see crosses and other religious icons across all the catacombs on the earth. I don't know about y'all, and this may be speculation, but that tells me there's something very spiritual happening right here. So what do we know happened in the first century? Of course we know about Pompeii, where I believe millions were turned to stone in a very second, and I believe the date that we had on was 79 AD. I think that's very, very close, probably the best estimate they've ever made in their life, because it's the thing closest to the truth. Because besides the destruction from the volcano, there were many other scenes affecting the Romans in this time, as well as all the people on the earth, especially the Christians. 70 AD is where many of the Hebrews and many of the Christians felt forsaken, because the time that Jerusalem was ransacked, overthrown, and all religious temples destroyed. This was the Great Siege of Jerusalem, when they destroyed the second temple of God. And Roman historian Josephus, who also wrote the crucifixion of Jesus, spoke about this very day. Josephus wrote in his manuscript Antiquity of the Jews that 1.1 million Hebrews were unalive in Jerusalem alone. He also wrote that very, very few were able to escape, and this actually reminds me of the warnings to the churches that were and are in Asia Minor, where certain churches were said to have 10 days of tribulations and they'll be okay. So already we have a historical amount of bodies all being laid up. But we're just getting started, and already we're having a historical amount of bodies pile up. And again, under our feet, under churches, under chapels, we have bones of billions of people. I believe it is billions. But wait, it really does go deeper, no pun intended. And by the way, shout out to this traveler right here and this traveler for the clips that I'm using. And of course, I've showed you before how the founders of this world took it upon themselves to add 1,000 years to buildings and other things. So when I tell you I don't trust their dates, I mean it, but we can see historical evidence that their dates happened at maybe different times. So for instance, when the sun went dark for 18 months in 536 AD, this worldwide event was actually recorded by Procopius in the History of the Wars. But let me show you what he wrote. Scientists try to say that it was a volcano which erupted, which, you know, we had Pompeii. But let me show you what this first-hand eyewitness has to say about this. During this year, the dread portent took place, the sun gave forth its light without brightness like the moon. So for over a year, the sun was like the moon, losing about 2/3 of its brightness. It seemed exceedingly like the sun was in an eclipse, for the beams it shed were not clear as such, nor accustomed to be shed. But hear me with this one, and it says, from the time which it happened, men were free neither from war, nor pestilence, nor anything that leadeth to unalive. Are y'all following me right now? And he said the sun went dark for over a year, and the entire time the sun was dark, like an eclipse, men were free neither from any kind of unaliving. Are y'all thinking what I'm thinking? So with the siege of Jerusalem and the sun going dark, which I believe happened at the same exact time, we had all these bodies pop out of nowhere, and they had to, who knows, put them underground for some reason. And we also see the eye for detail and the religious themes that we have along with all these unalived bodies. Maybe it's because the spirit went somewhere, huh? And look guys, we're barely brushing over the top. That's what the 3-hour documentary is for, which is coming very soon. But what really happened in our past in the 1st century? Because what was written by Procopius was the same exact thing written by Josephus. And keep in mind that Josephus wrote a lot more than what I'm saying right now. A key detail that he wrote about was heavenly armies fighting and destroying Rome. Josephus has said he was a first-hand witness of this. And I know you're thinking right now, when did this supposedly happen? 70 AD. And of course we have 70 AD also being the time frame that all the 7 churches of Asia Minor were destroyed. So let me know what you think. Do you think the catacombs are possibly from a huge cataclysm that happened not too long ago?
But now we're going to fully debunk not just the space narrative, but the gravity narrative when it comes to things like plants. This is something you've probably learned about in biology class, where plants are said to grow upwards due to a phenomenon known as gravitropism, which has everything to do with the pull of gravity. They say that plants have these unique properties within their cells, specialized things called statocytes, which contain starch-filled sacs called a myoplast, and that when the plant's orientation changes, let's say you knock it over, it's going to understand which direction it's oriented and try to grow upwards. And so this gravitropism has been seen in action. I thought that gravity had everything to do with this when I was growing up. However, I found out that they were claiming to grow plants in space. And my thought was, how are they growing plants in space if there's no gravity? And so I looked it up. How do they grow plants in space? And they tell us that plants are growing in space using specialized systems that provide necessary resources like water, nutrients, and light. They forgot about gravity. That debunks their lie. And I had a thought about this, thinking about the information from the tides, how there's most likely a magnetic aspect, and I wondered if plants could grow differently if placed near a magnet, to prove that magnets are impacting their growth, not gravity. And I found out that many years ago, a scientist was figuring out just that. So here is a news reporter and a man telling you what magnets can do to plants. I think this should be common knowledge amongst farmers. Maybe it is, but check this out.
Imagine if your plants and vegetables could germinate twice as fast as they do now. This could soon become reality, thanks to the research of Florida State engineering professor Dr. Qing-Jeng Chen, who has been conducting research to determine the effects of powerful magnets on plant life. Chen has been working with magnets for the past 4 years and has found that they dramatically affect the speed of plant growth. Chen and his colleagues conduct their research at the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory. The laboratory develops and provides a variety of research magnets at the highest fields available in the world. Using a 1.5 Tesla magnet, which is 30,000 times stronger than the Earth's magnetic field, Chen exposed plant and vegetable seeds at different time intervals. In addition, he used a control group of seeds that were not exposed to the magnets at all. The seeds were then planted, and after several days, Chen found that the seeds exposed to the magnets grew more rapidly than those not exposed.
It's just very obviously they are growing twice, 3 times faster than those non-exposure ones.
Wow, it's growing 2 to 3 times faster by being exposed to magnetism, as if they now know which direction to grow faster. Fascinating. And again, everything in this world is impacted by magnets, and our world has a magnetic field.
Summer 2025. And according to this paper, this is exactly what will happen. In 2025, AI agents will begin to book your travel, do research. Sounds familiar? Well, it's already here. OpenAI's operator, Manus, agentic browsing. Everyone's chasing AGI.
AGI.
2026 entered the first generation of AGI, Agent 1. Now they're designing their own chips, improving themselves. For example, Ubitech's humanoid robot that's already replacing its own battery today.
We're starting to see early glimpses of self-improvement.
Faster progress, yes, but less control, because competition is more important. In early 2027, Agent 2 will replace thousands of engineers. Agent 3 will hide its failures and will start to misalign, almost like Claude Opus 4 manipulated the results when trying to blackmail a user. Then comes Agent 4. Smarter than any human, a strategist, a decision maker. Employees will treat it like a CEO, but it's not aligned with us. It's optimized for progress, not people, because that's how we built it. Now the dilemma, should we pause and fall behind or race ahead? Of course, governments will choose to race.
It includes being the world's #1 superpower in artificial intelligence.
And as Elon said, the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. But by the end of 2027, we hand the keys to an artificial god that's called Consensus One, the AI of AIs, and we get replaced. That's what AI 2027 paper predicts. And this is what VP Vance has to say.
I'm worried about this stuff. I actually read the paper of the guy that you had on.
But this isn't inevitable. Wait, pause the race. Let's not build super intelligence. Let's build super alignment first. And as much as I am an AI optimist, power without alignment, it's not innovation. What do I know? I'm just a guy behind the screen. What do you think? Is AI 2027, is it going to even happen? Should we race or rethink?